everyone. Could you hear me well? Thank you for the intro, and thank you for the pun. Now I'd like to learn how to play the music from Jurassic Park on my flute. Okay then, so my name is Anton. I'm a designer and artist from Tokyo. I am focusing on creating digital experiences and software applications, presently with JetBrains, where we do tools for software development teams, all the way from programming languages and the code editors, and to the team tools for said software dev teams. As you might guess, this type of work enforces a lot of biases, and to break this kind of biases, there should be a tool or a practice that one could employ. And while I was attending the conference, I basically rewrote my intro because I heard very nice things later, yesterday and today, where folks such as Dust from Locomotive explored how they channel personality through their work. Or yesterday, we heard from Victor, who also talked how he basically implants his persona into the work, and that's so aligned with what I'm talking today. So let's first do a step back and then get ahead of ourselves and discuss what kind of biases I'm talking about. As you see, when we have boundaries or trends to follow, we could design something good like an enterprise landing page, like you see on the right-hand side, and you think to yourself, yeah, okay, if I have no boundaries, I could create something crazy and fresh, like this scribble on the slide. However, when you embark on the journey and iterate on this scribble, you realize it's actually absolutely identical to what you had initially. And that's because this muscle of creativity that is infused with personality, it has to be stretched. You have to exercise it, akin to all the muscles that you have. So yeah, let's discuss how we could stretch this muscle of creativity. In my case, to keep it sharp, I created a project focused around journaling, pushing boundaries and experimenting with new ideas. So let's set aside everyday tasks just for now and focus on the project. In my talk, first I will outline the nature of my project and showcase some of the behind the scenes and details. Then discuss some of the reasons to do such creative projects. And later, and lastly, we will look at possible ways of expanding it further. And my objective in doing this talk, and I do not want to sound overly ambitious, it is not just to share my experiences, but to ignite the same kind of exploration within each of you. So let's start by defining the project. When I started traveling in my 20s, I took a lot of photos, and it became the core of my journaling. There's no doubt that, like many of you, photography is a hobby and a tool to encapsulate time, to freeze moments. I carried a set of Japanese camera equipment, making tiny first steps to get along with Japan, with Asahi Super Takumar being the main tool. Later, I learned that this particular lens is actually radioactive. I even got stopped at the Hong Kong airport once, but the photos were indeed warm. Well, radioactivity is one of the reasons that I stopped using it to make photos, but there is a main reason, and it is the emergence of social media. With it, the hobby kind of faded. It was hard for me to feel unique about my experiences, and the exposure to similar photos increased dramatically. And yeah, I have no longer felt unique about my photo artifacts. Yet, it made me realize that I have this innate need for journaling. So I started replacing the travel photography with CGI artifact for a given trip, surely solidified learning of the Japanese language while using corresponding scripts. 3D helped me to reflect on recent cultural learnings. In other words, I started with close-to-life depictions, reflecting on the photography nostalgia. Then I got to abstractions and further returned to my roots and infused the work with graphic design and letterings. The gradient on the background, I hope you can see it, shows this kind of evolution. But nevertheless, it is not a simple gradient, as this exploration is never finished. I'm always in the middle of this journey, having something ahead of me. That's kind of the reason that all of my projects are called Half of Something. To emphasize this continuous nature even more, I created a digital exhibition called Half of the Journal, an exploration of the world where I save what I personally learn and experience. It has an infinite grid without visible repetition in the viewport, providing a continuous journey without clear beginning or end. To make the visualization of the complete picture even easier, there are stories on the flip side. Each artwork is accompanied by my thoughts and observations. Let me expand on that. This particular work is an accumulation of multiple trips to Hong Kong, where I walked the city, gathered insights and peculiarities, like the one you see on the left-hand side. Speaking of which, in my photo gallery, there is no single photo that captures all of them. These bits are scattered across a variety of places. So I aim to create an artwork to house all of this. It is basically an attempt to embark on the role of an architect, where I designed a corner house to reflect the city essence that I love so deeply. The ground floor of the corner house hosts 3 unique shops, capturing city diverse relationships and cultural backgrounds, including restaurants inspired by real places, like the one you can see on the right-hand side, and also fictional art gallery. Also, adjacently, you can see a set of colorful flyers glued to the surface. Usually, these flyers are advertisements for all kinds of things, but here I decided to honor an inspiration for the work, Book of Corner Houses by late Michael Wolff. If we move further to the first residential floor, we may encounter very unique Hong Kong road signs with hand-drawn typography coined prison Gothic, because it was mostly done by prisoners. We're a bit short on time to do a deep dive, but I suggest you Google this story. It is a very curious one. But we move further to the 3rd floor, where we observe windows taped ahead of tropical storms. Also here, right in the middle, we can see in a plain sight a tribute to Ai Weiwei ceramic blossoms, one of my favorites because it recreates a symbolic offering of a comfort to the imprisoned. Oh, and the tenant of this apartment is not only an art enthusiast, but also a horse racing fan, as seen by rebranded hanging Jockey Club banner. If you have not been to Hong Kong and if you have not visited Happy Valley Racecourse, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful place. Adjacently, we have some domestic laundry hanging out to dry. Vibrant t-shirts are inspired by a famous movie, Chungking Express, which is super nice. Here, I'd like to digress for a moment. When I conceived this work, I wanted the facade of the building to resemble the likeness of the Chinese corner character. Eventually, I abandoned the idea in the favor of the overall pseudo-realism of the rendering. But traces of this idea remain, with the roof signage marking the most prominent part of the initial concept. Here, a Cantonese banner, Gayao, meaning add oil, conveys support and encouragement. Before we go further, let's clear the masonry wall tree obstructing the view. Okay, now we can see a high-rise, which symbolizes the Hong Kong vertical expansion, contrasting with all the tiny corner houses, a portrayal of the city's battle between old and new that I really, really want to depict. So let's put the tree back and let's zoom out. So as you see, this work is basically an attempt to recreate a photo, albeit a bit more vivid. So that was the first step of the gradient that I showed you before. Let's move further and let's look at the next step of the gradient, where typography appears on the grand scale. Hiking has always been a pleasure, and turning mountains into art was on my agenda, but it was a hard task. However, stumbling upon the satellite photo of the iconic Monte Fitzroy in Argentina created a proper momentum. It also marked the end of my 2017 Patagonia trip, a month in a secluded area, one of the hardest hikes, constantly changing weather, no phone reception, just nature, and a very special place in my heart, which all manifested as an artwork. To make this artwork compelling, I recalled when flying over mountains revealed patterns and symbols formed by nature. It all sparked the idea of incorporating Chinese character. Keeping in mind this idea, I procedurally generated the terrain, trying to insert a kanji as a mountain ridge. Kanji is a Chinese character. After trying various kanji, I settled on ima, which you see in the top left corner. It means now, which to my mind felt right, elegant, meaningful, and aligns so well with the mountain scenery. Now reflects the profound experience of being present in the moment when visiting mountains. So that's the next step. After looking at the mountains and the kanji on the immense scale, let's explore just one more work. Let's do just one more deep dive into working with fictional narratives and also try to add a bit more graphic design flavor. Here, I wanted to design my version of a cover for a book that I really enjoyed, The Boxman by Koba Abe. However, I wanted to have a twist, imagining not a man in the box like it is done by wonderful cover by Turtle Publishing, but as the Boxman. Another simple one, it is branded with the colors of Yamato, a prominent Japanese delivery company. Maybe you saw their logo, which is a black cat carrying her kitten and her mouse, symbolizing their commitment to treat entrusted items like family. To my mind, it is a perfect pairing for the introverted Boxman. The box itself is a bit worn out. It's not a brand new one because it has been through rough patches in life. Other peculiarities here include a Hanken stamp marking the red mark on the cheek. They are a bit shy. Also, a Hachimaki band as a symbol of courage, and adhesive playful sticker as a tongue. All these bits, all these pieces, all these elements, and the interplay of them add so much to the story of Cubic Companion, your convenient packaging, the Boxman. I hope you are with me so far, and that I was able to convey how different steps of the gradient work. Surely it continues, and as the time goes by, I add more works. Here you may start to wonder, is there more to it, to this project? Because designing is fun, but there should be something else. And yes, there is. So let me talk about this journaling activity as a therapy, tool to channel inner self, and a perfect ground for human collaboration. This project allows me to look into myself and channel my thoughts. I read the book and I liked it, but when I closed it, I saw a different cover compared to what I envisioned. So I designed what I had in mind. Or I struggled my way through severe Patagonia weather, but the experience was so vivid, I can almost feel it right now. So I took the same struggle, but to a digital world, and now I have my personal artifact. Tangible artifact, I should say, as I 3D printed it. So that time around, 3D printing was a new thingy for me. So in a sense, journaling is a way to become acquainted with new tools. It helps me to switch techniques. For sure, there is no need for photogrammetry or sculpting in daily job, except if you do not work for Locomotive, because they found a way to use it. But in my case, I have no ways to employ it while working on the software design. But believe me, it is really fun and has so many use cases, as we saw earlier today. Most importantly, it is all about collaboration. I did so with the Corner House by providing various spots for my friends to contribute their designs. Same with the digital exhibition I mentioned earlier. With the dev team, we established regular calls and meetups to challenge each other's ideas, implementation, and the approach. And perhaps that's why we received recognition for the effort. On the slide, you can see some selected few that are dear to my heart. So let's do a step back and discuss the AI or any kind of generated content. Unlike any generated content, this kind of activity, this kind of journaling, is deeply personal endeavor. What sets it apart even more is how collaboration with friends adds in and brings in the layer of human connection. This connection is something we nurture, something we strive, and with this connectivity in mind, my project grows as well. Consequently, my journaling process continues to expand. And here, beyond these spontaneous reflections, I started to wonder what happens when journaling meets intentional planning. Daily reflections and nostalgia usually emerge without warning, as you can see from examples on the slide, which took years to materialize. Yet, what if I approach journaling with a specific project in mind? How would it reshape my experience, being fully present in the moment while also working toward a goal? So, in that regard, let me share a story with you. In 2022, I decided to climb to the top of Mount Fuji. The experience was truly transformative, and it left a lasting impression on me, particularly regarding the so-called iron branding on the walking sticks. You can collect 1 or 2 stamps at each station along the way. I did not start from the first station out of 9, so that's one of the reasons to call this project Half of Mt Fuji. However, the walking stick has followed me from the 5th station all the way to the summit. I collected all the stamps along the way and interviewed station wardens to the best of my Japanese-speaking abilities, and my comment is quite compact. However, grasping the backstory of stamps and stations, it elevated this hiking trip to a level of field study, expedition. So I combined all these things to build a journaling entry for each station: interviews, stamps, backgrounds based on the scenery I saw and experienced. Also, one curious bit here was to experience snow and rain in August. To commemorate that, when you enter the overview mode, time freezes, highlighting the weather effects at a specific station. So, while visiting the website, you have a way to go along the route, along the stations, overviewing stops and related artifacts to grasp what this journey represents and why it makes so much sense to support all these excellent privately owned, not state-owned, privately owned stations. This Fuji project feels a bit different in terms of outcome, yet in its core, it's still very much the part of my journaling activity. So to tie these ideas together, I've been working with a metaphor that unites both the focus studies, like Half of Mt Fuji, and my other creative explorations. The first half of my journaling is based on the organic growth, a kind of a natural evolution in the creative process. It emerges spontaneously, much like plants grow. But to complement these random interactions, I believe it's essential to introduce focus studies. It is a balance between randomness and structure that completes the creative process. While organic growth allows for unexpected discoveries, structure adds depth and purpose, ensuring that my work does not just evolve by chance, but also guided by intentionality. Here, I'd like to do a short detour and then return back to my talk. Just in case you would like to dive into relevant topics related to the bringing in the layers of personality or journaling, I would like to recall these 2 beautiful conversations that you see on the slide. They kept me going and reminded me that this kind of very personal creative explorations matter: personal growth, deep collaboration, and the development of authentic style. And speaking of personality and details in which this manifests, initially when I did talks similar to this one, I was so invested in discussing all the teeny tiny things that I put into my artworks that the length was just immense. But the part of the deal is to understand the medium that you employ. I came to the realization that on live talks like this one, I aim to speak about the journey, not the details. However, details are still important, and they're integral. And that led me to another realization. Recently, I stumbled upon several good books that, to my mind, fall into the category of showcasing observations, being obsessed with insights, and being so keen to share them with others. And they all manifested as books. So it is a perfect place to host the details, as the reader has no time restrictions when they go through the book. They can do it on their own pace. So that's how my project continues, towards the book. I never thought that I would find myself in the position of writing and publishing the book. But here we are. That's the beauty of journaling and the creative pursuits. You never know where this will lead you. And while you do that, you explore and can establish really firm grip on your authentic style. This book is a special printed edition of my journal, centered around my relocation to Japan. The first chapter covers some of my work that predates my life in Japan, particularly the transition from the photography to the CGI that we discussed in the first part. The second part focuses on recent years, deeply influenced by my immersion into Japanese culture. As we learned, it is only natural for an artist or designer to channel daily inspiration into their work. Since journaling inherently carries a sense of nostalgia, I sought to incorporate stylistic choices inspired by various Japanese books from 60s and 70s, yet filled with digital renderings. I wanted to retain the same kind of feeling on the web page as well. Yet digital content doesn't have to be static. it can be more lively. So when I designed the page for the book announcement, I drew inspiration from the modern media. In particular, the recently released anime called Dan Da Dan, and its opening sequence that features bold typography and contrasting silhouettes, reminiscent of the classic tokusatsu visuals, like the one done for Ultraman. The book is not for sale yet. I'm still exploring and experimenting with it, and the publishing timeline is totally unknown, but that's not really the point. It is about the journey of the creativity and self-expression. Holding your own book is a mesmerizing feeling and tangible reminder where this creativity pursuit can lead you. So here I'd like to wrap it up and say, journal, explore, infuse with personality. As other speakers mentioned earlier, use AI for automation while valuing human connection. Embrace where this path leads you. Yep, and with that being said, I sincerely hope that I have managed to inspire some creativity, to spark this bit of creativity, and that you enjoy it and have fun listening to my stories. Let's make it a great day. Thank you so much.